severe range. That's pretty crazy. So the solution to both these problems is the same. Let's build more housing with special attention and policy changes that foster increasing our community stock of affordable housing. And so from here, I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
Is it okay if I stand over there so I get some more? Okay. I'm like not facing the majority of people.
Be where you need to be. This is Heather Quaas-Annsa of Communities Toward Safe Spots. She's going to give us a talk about what her organization does and how you can participate in that if you'd like to. And we have a bunch of materials from Safe Spots over on the table now, if you want to grab one on your way out.
It's down about 5 meetings from now.
You're doing great, man.
Great, Matt. We appreciate you, Matt.
So this logo is supposed to be about this community supported shelters. I'm Heather Quaas-Annsa. I'm the director of philanthropy for the organization. I've been there for about 2.5 years. Before that, I was with Peace Health and the Oregon Foundations, and fell in love with this organization when I went on a tour and knew that this is something that I could really get behind. It's really meaningful work. So I'm happy to be here to chat with all today. Is there a clicker or something I can click with? Oh, I can do it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so homelessness in Lane County, this is data as of February. I pulled this information this morning. So as of this morning, it hasn't been updated for the March totals yet, but as of right now, we have almost 4,500 individuals that are unhoused in Lane County. This is the statistics that are on here. When you look at what someone who is chronically homeless is, that means that that's someone that's been sleeping unhoused in like an emergency shelter or a legal alternative shelter for more than 13 months, or has this is not their first time being unhoused. So a lot of our folks, and over half of the folks that are in our program, are chronically unhoused. Over half also have a disabling condition. That's typically a physical or mental disability that they're suffering with. And then we have about 5% of folks in our community that are veterans that are unhoused. And I'll talk about like statistics and whatnot louder if necessary for the folks at home. Can everyone in the back hear me? I have kids, I can get real loud. Yeah, so this is just some of the statistics based upon Lane County. Lane County, as I'm sure you're all aware, has one of the highest per capita rates of homelessness in the nation, with about 80% of our unhoused population living unsheltered, and that's compared to 35% nationally that actually are unsheltered. So we're one of the we're the smallest city of the top 10 with the highest rates of homelessness in the area. So not great news. So how did we get here? Well, 3 decades of disinvestment in affordable housing is really what got us in the situation. That's the #1 cause of homelessness. Minimum wage is not a livable wage. So this is data, again, pulled it this morning. The average fair market rent for a 1-bedroom apartment is $1,063. That means if you're making minimum wage, you need to be working roughly 54 hours a week to afford to live in a 1-bedroom. And that's just living. That's not having all sorts of fun extra things. That's not going on vacation. That's not having any money in savings. That's just to afford an apartment. And that's if you could find one at this price point. This is extremely low. I was talking to some friends of mine who are renters, and they're looking at like 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartments, and those are upwards of $2,000 at this point. We cannot afford this. The Sarah cannot afford this. The reason Eugene is like this in terms of why we don't have as much housing as we could possibly have, well, it's the way the zoning laws are. We have a lot of the R1, which is the low density zoning, and that's a lot of what Eugene is, and that restricts what sort of housing can be placed in those areas. There's also a lot of development impact fees that are charged to developers that are trying to build new housing in the city. And fun fact that I recently learned, Eugene also has a transient room tax, which is designated to extract fees from tourists to the city, but it also applies to low-income individuals living in trailer parks and mobile homes. And it actually increases the rents in affected areas by 4.5%. So that's sort of why we're in this situation. So community supported shelters is options for shelters for individuals in our community. We really expanded what we do at the height of COVID, when folks realized that maybe having a bunch of people in one room during a pandemic is not such a good idea. And so the city and the county came to us and said, hey, y'all have been running these non-congregate shelters for several years now. They seem to be working out well. Could you build a whole bunch more really quickly? And the founder, Eric DeVere at the time, said, yeah, sure, we could do that. So over the course of 2 years, we built 9 additional shelters, added about 100 new shelter beds. We're currently sitting at 14 sites and 144 beds that we're operating across the city of Eugene. So we are one of the larger spaces that is offering a non-congregate shelter. Some of the other city-supported shelter that you may be aware of is Dusk to Dawn. And that's about 105 spaces. That's a low barrier drop-in shelter. It's heated and there's multi-person tents there. Microsites, like us, we have these, and there's also, like, we have microsites, it's like 1 or 2 huts at different locations. There's 24 spaces of those total in Eugene. Opportunity Village has 29 huts, and they're working on changing some of their modeling. There's the overnight parking program that has up to 6 vehicles per site. There's about 40 of those available. And then Safe Sleep Sites, which just got approved and was extended. Actually, I think at one of the most recent city council meetings, 2 or 3 city council meetings ago, they extended it for another year. That allows for up to 60 vehicles or 40 tents, and there's 5 sites of those in total. And then we are a rest stop. So there's Safe Sleep Sites and then rest stops, and we're called a safe spot, just to make it confusing and add all the same sort of acronyms and terminology in there. We've been doing this for about a decade now. And over that time, we have served well over 1,000 individuals. We have a truly low barrier shelter program. What it takes to get into our shelters is you show up at our office. You sign up on our wait list, you check in with us once a week, and then you move into our orientation site. You could have a dog, you could have a cat, you could be you could have a partner that you want to stay with. You could be struggling with addiction, and that's okay. We want to shelter people. It doesn't matter where they're at in life. It doesn't matter what they're struggling with, what they're going through. Our goal is sheltering someone. And so that's really what we're focused on. And one of the things that we're learning that a lot of people don't know about our program is all the support that's provided before they even move in. So while they're just on our wait list checking in, they're receiving access to our day respite and warming center, which provides them with access to their basic needs. So they can get food and water, they can get sleeping bags, they can get hand warmers during the winter. We are actually, through a grant from Trillium, expanding our program and allowing individuals that are on our wait list to access our laundry program and our shower program. That's something that the mission used to offer, and during COVID, they stopped doing it and haven't started that up again. So the options for shelter in the areas that provide laundry and shower services to individuals has basically gone away. So we got the grant from Trillium and are hoping to actually start that in the next month. We just got our laundry trailer this past weekend, so very excited about that. We also provide folks with shelf-stable foods, with clothing, blankets, pet supplies. Basically, whatever they need to continue to survive on the street, we're providing to them while they're on our wait list. We're also acting as that referral source between the different organizations. We're connected with every other shelter in Eugene. We know who has openings, when people need to show up. We know what beds are going to be available and when they're going to be available, so we can make those referrals and send people to another place if we don't have an opening right now. Our wait list is currently 3 to 4 months old. We have about 150 people on our wait list right now. And that's if people are checking in with us all the time. We are not at 100% capacity. We will never be at 100% capacity because the way our shelter works is we're focused on community building. We want people to feel safe where they're at. Imagine moving into a site where you have 17 other roommates. I don't know about you, but I've had some really interesting roommates over the years. You don't always get along with the people that you're stuck with. So we want to be able to move people between our different shelters. And so if someone doesn't work out at the first site that we place them at, we don't want to kick them out and start the whole process over again and put them back on the street. We want to say, okay, you didn't work out over here for whatever reason, let's move you to another site and see if that's a better fit for you. And so that's one of the reasons that we're not 100% occupied all the time, is that opportunity to find the right fit for someone, because people are going to be with us for probably 6 months, 6 to 9 months tends to be about the average. We have one individual that's been with us for 3 years, who's on every single wait list possible. We just haven't been able to get them housing that meets their needs. So we want to find the good fit for those people. It also takes time to clean out the huts when someone moves out. Like, it's not like a hotel room. It's not a one-day process. Like, some people do some interesting things in their house. So we need to be able to clean that up, make it ready for the next person. We also act as a referral for the community court program. So folks that are part of that justice system have received tickets, they're staying with us now through a pilot program that the community court is doing to show that if you're providing folks with shelter and you're meeting their basic needs, they're more likely to be successful in the court process. It's kind of a no-brainer, but apparently no one's thought about that. So they got a federal grant to prove that. So that's another thing that we're doing, and that's amongst the reasons we're not 100% occupied. What's in the safe spot community? Well, because our safe spots are on parkland for the most part, we don't have electricity and we don't have plumbing. So we truck in water and then we truck out gray water. We actually got a grant from the Jill Hyman Fund through the Oregon Country Fair to add gray water filtration systems at every single one of our sites, which will eliminate the need for us to truck out the 40,000 gallons of water that we truck out every single year, and will allow us to actually put in community gardens with all of our sites. We also have firewood that we chop October through May. We go through about 90 cords of firewood a year. So if you have a down tree from the ice storm, let me know. We're happy to come pick up wood from you. Every single safe spot has a kitchen that's equipped with a propane stove with stainless steel countertops. We have community spaces that have solar powered charging stations and that wood burning stove. We have a community shower program and a community laundry program. And then we have anywhere between 6 and 18 huts at our sites. We can have a maximum of 20 according to the ordinance that Wayne County created for us to be able to have them. But most of our sites only go up to 18. 18 seems to be the magic number. Get a little bit bigger than that. I don't know, the addition of 2 more people for some reason just kind of makes things a little bit less stable. What do our folks get when they move in with us? Well, they get a welcome tote that has everything they need to survive in the Conestoga hut. They have access to our clothing program. They get transportation assistance, whether that be a bus pass or we actually have a shuttle program that picks people up and drives them where they need to go. We have access to a kitchen coordinator who helps people figure out their dietary needs and actually shows them how they can get their dietary needs met using whatever food resources they have. So if they receive a food box and they get dried beans and they've never cooked dried beans before, what happens to those dried beans? It can go in trash. We're teaching people to cook with the resources that they're given. And that's something, again, like we had an individual, before we had a formal orientation site set up and built a little fire in the corner of our community. We're like, why are you doing that? And he's like, I'm hungry. Or there's a propane stove right here. Like, why aren't you cooking over here? He's like, I don't know how to use that. He's never been in a place where he had a stove to use. So he was just surviving the way he knew how. And that's one of those things, like, we take that for granted. Not everyone knows how to cook dried beans. Not everyone knows what to do with a rutabaga or what a rutabaga even is. Like, how do we help people be successful? Not just while they're in our program, but when they leave our program as well. Our maintenance team is the ones that are taking care of maintaining the huts, maintaining the sites, maintaining the grounds. And then you have a service team that's providing all the support they need from application through exit. So that includes helping people get their identification, because anytime they're swept, all their stuff goes away. That includes their birth certificate, that includes their driver's license, that includes medication sometimes. So our team is helping to get them all the things that they need to be successful when they leave our program. We also have employment opportunities and workforce development programs. A lot of our staff are either current or former clients. Our community manager is a former client. The majority of us on staff have lived experience, whether it be having been unhoused ourselves or having gone through the criminal justice systems, have struggled with sobriety or addiction, have fled domestic violence. All of us have that experience. And so we're relating to our clients on a one-on-one basis because we've been there, and a lot of us are on the other side of it.
Can you explain what SWAT is?
When someone has an illegal encampment and the police come in and take all of their stuff and tell them, well, they get citations and tickets and have to show up to court and are fined because they are trying to survive on the streets. And they're told they need to move along. And so all their possessions get taken from them and they lose everything. I mean, they're literally losing everything except for the clothes on their back. And that happens every single day. And it was supposed to not happen during the ice storm, and it still happened during the ice storm. They're supposed to like put stops when there's severe inclement weather, and it still is happening. And so we're seeing these individuals who were barely surviving before they got swept, and they're coming to us literally freezing to death with nothing. They don't have their identification, so they can't get their benefits, so they can't get their food, so they can't, just everything just sort of piles on and on and on. And so we're starting from scratch with a lot of our folks that we're working with. Community supported shelters, our name, community supported shelters. We hyper focus on community, both internally and externally from the organization. I talked about the community court program. We also have 2 other projects that have just started this year, so within the last 3 months. We're working with OSLP on our art program. Once you get someone from just focused on survival, it's kind of amazing what they do. When they no longer have to worry about, am I going to be safe if I go to sleep at this place? Am I going to be attacked? Is my stuff going to be stolen? We had an individual who was sleeping by the mission and woke up to his sleeping bag being stolen off of him while he was sleeping. When you don't have to worry about surviving, you can start thinking about how do you start thriving. And the art program is one of those things, giving individuals a creative outlet, letting them explore what it's like to experience being human and being recognized for your abilities, your artistic abilities, and your innate talents and all these sorts of things. And then we're also working with NAMI on peer-led groups. And so we're having peers lead their peers in counseling groups.
NAMI is
The National Alliance for Mental Illness. And so another one of those partnerships, we're all about helping our clients figure out what their next steps are, helping them thrive. And so the more we can do to sort of let them do it themselves, let them figure out what their paths are, that's kind of our goal. And some of the other things I talked about, the gray water filtration, the gardens, we're working on adding solar power to more of our sites, and actually hooking up solar power to the individual huts and not just in our community room. But these are all projects that take time and take money, and we are doing all sorts of fun things. If you want to learn more, the next slide. Nope, slide after this. I'll show you how you can learn more in just a second. So, what can you all do to help end homelessness? It's pretty simple. You just need to care. You need to contribute your time, your talent, your treasure to organizations such as ours, or pick any of the other dozens of organizations in this community that are supporting the unhoused. There's one for everyone, every walk of life, any passion that you have. If you're passionate about families that are unhoused, you can find a group for that. If you're passionate about feeding people, like there's lots of different options for you. But contributing is a big way. Advocating, a lot of you are getting really good at that. I've been seeing you at the city council meetings. We need more people that are willing to speak out and talk about things that aren't going well, things that we need to be addressing, things that we need to fix. This is not always comfortable, but we need to do it because the more of us that are raising our voices and saying, hey, this is not okay, we should be doing better, here's how, eventually people are going to listen and we can start moving the needle that way. Reaching out, honestly, just asking people how they're doing when you see them on the street, offering someone a bottle of water when it's hot outside, just checking in. These are our humans. These are our neighbors. And it could be any one of us that are in this situation. Most people in this community are a paycheck away from being unhoused themselves. And you never know what brought someone to this point. I was almost unhoused with my 3-year-old. A little over a decade ago, I left an abusive relationship, an abusive marriage, and my then husband stopped payment on everything, emptied our bank account, and then the past due notices started showing up, and the foreclosure notice came, and I had a 3-year-old, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do because I didn't know who to reach out to in the community. I didn't know what resources were available to me, and if it wasn't for caring individuals directing me to the places in the community that could provide me with a food box, that were able to connect me with some place to get my utilities turned back on, that got me diapers for my kiddo, that helped us get counseling so I wouldn't get back into that relationship. And we were able to move on and be stronger because of it. If it wasn't for community members just recognizing that this is not what I wanted for myself, this is not the situation I wanted to put myself in, this is not what I wanted for my baby. Like, I could have been in the car with my 3-year-old, and I'm a homeowner now. And I'm a homeowner again. I was able to build myself back up. I went back to school. I rebuilt my credit. My then 3-year-old is going to be 16 in 2 weeks. And he's doing phenomenally. And he has a toy. I was in his room. He allowed me in his room earlier today. And I check for this thing periodically, but he got a little stuffed toy when we were at the food bank. And he has brought that with him every place we've moved. And he doesn't know why, but it's a special thing. Like, that's something important. It goes with his other important things. And he knows that it's important, but he doesn't remember why it's important. And he still has it. The kid still has it. And that's the only thing that is not destroyed in his room. With, like, of the chaos of a 16-year-old's room, like, that has a place on his shelf and it's there. And again, like, it could be any of us, and it just takes the community reaching out and saying, hey, how can we help? And then educate yourself. Pick up that book. There's plenty of YouTube videos you can watch. There's plenty of movies you can watch about this situation. Go to the city council, listen to what's going on. Talk to your unhoused neighbors. They're human. They're just like you and me. Talk to them, find out how they got in the situation and what you can do to help. If you want to learn more about what we're doing, our annual celebration is coming up on the 18th. I have some invites over there. We're doing things a little bit differently for our annual celebration this year. Instead of me standing up and talking to you all for 2 hours, no one wants that. We're setting out like a pseudoscience fair, where we're going to have our clients and our staff actually tell you about all the different projects that we have. So you can learn about our gray water filtration and the University of Oregon project we did regarding the interior architecture of our sites and of our Conestoga huts, adding shelving units and things like that to make things more livable for folks. You can talk to our folks that run the shower program and run the laundry program. You can talk to the folks that are doing the art with our clients and NAMI and all that sort of stuff. Rather than me tell you about it, you actually get to go and experience it. You can also chop wood if you're interested. We're going to have our wood chopper out there. So if you have not used a wood chopper, now's your chance. Yeah.
At the same fair, there can be people telling stories and telling stories how I became homeless. Because I've been telling people in town, and they'll say, well, the bums. I said, don't say the bums. Tell me why you're saying it, or I don't mean anything by it. I mean, they're good people probably, but I think just a tiny bit of knowledge of who these neighbors are.
Yeah. And I mean, our clients are gonna be there with our staff. So you could totally talk to them, and most of them are very happy to explain how they got here. Some individuals, I can think of several. Actually one that just got into housing, he had cancer and had his own HVAC business in California. Was diagnosed with cancer, came up here to live with family and go through treatments. Family lost their housing, so he lost his housing, and so he was still in chemotherapy while he was in our program. And he lost everything because of the American medical system and the fact that nothing is free. So he spent all his money paying for his health care. We have another individual who was living in his car so he can give every single dime that he made to his wife and his children. So, you know, it's all sorts of different situations, but yeah, I will encourage people to share their stories because it is important to know where people are coming from. Yes.
Heather, will you tell the group a little bit about your outcomes?
Oh, our outcomes. So we actually have one of the highest success rates of moving folks from the streets into housing in Lake County for the size of our program. The average length of stay for folks is 6 to 9 months, with our veteran community moving out significantly faster than that. They tend to move out within 3 months. There are a lot more programs for veterans in this community, so they don't tend to stay with us that long, unfortunately. They're really phenomenal people. I'm glad that we're helping them and they're moving on, but like we have a guitar program right now at the veteran site, and like, oh, I'm gonna miss out on all the music that these people are learning. It's kind of a bummer, but it's great that they're able to move on and then come and visit us later. What other statistics do you want?
I think that's it, just getting people into housing.
Yeah, housing is a big one. Our big focus though is improving people's lives. We want people to reconnect with their friends and family, and that's something that we really excel at. People are successful when they're part of a community. And if you move someone into housing and they have nothing else, they don't know their neighbors, they don't know where the resources are in the community, they don't have anyone they can hang out with after a long day of work, it gets really lonely and depression kicks in. And those are the folks that we see that end up struggling and not being successful when they move into housing. So our goal is to help them connect with the community at large, and then connect with their friends and family, and then they have that support system when they leave our community. Yes.
What are the statistics for folks who get placed in a housing through your program? What's the long-term statistic in them staying in housing?
So we only check in with them after a 6-month period. We actually, part of our grant controlling that we got was to create like an aftercare specialist. So that individual is going to be following up with everyone that exits our program, whether it's a positive or negative exit. So if they got into a fight and have to exit our program because of that, because of physical violence in our communities, we don't want them just to be unsheltered again and not have anything. We want to still be able to connect them to resources that they need. It takes a lot to be permanently exited from our program. You might just get exited and then you can reapply in a month. We're seeing probably about half of the folks, just from the data that we have right now during that 6 month, are staying housed after 6 months. But we're hoping with the aftercare specialists that we'll have a little bit more concrete data and be able to show the longer term outcomes that we're able to achieve, especially by keeping them connected to the community.
Is there an area that's just for women?
No, all of our sites are co-ed, but we do have some sites that sort of like gravitate towards one community or another. We have one site that is very much the domestic violence survivors and LGBTQIA+ individuals. Like that community is just sort of like become its own little thing. We have actually a couple sites that are completely sober. Like you have to be sober to be at that site. You cannot be struggling with your addiction at all. It's just not going to work if you're there. We have other sites that we have people active with their addictions. And we're working on getting them to the next step of that. So the sites sort of do their own thing, but yeah, totally go in.
How about children?
No children in our sites. Yeah.
What happens with those with children on the street?
There are other programs, thankfully, in Lake County that are able to help them because our hubs are only 60 square foot. They're not equipped to have more than one person technically in that spot.
Probably
put a time, you should.
I know I could talk all day, I'm so sorry.
Questions only for the people at the table?
No.
No, I think we're gonna have more discussion after the next presentation.
No. They got to ask the questions. I want to ask mine.
How are we for time, Kate?
Yeah, the time is my time.
I think
And I wanna
you're
ask you a
time
question.
managing this.
Go ahead.
You were
What
discussing.
about all the massive amount of crime increase around every single safe site that you have and all the other safe sites in the area? I'm gonna include the $20,000 worth of stolen bikes just last week by the police department, all committed by homeless people. But there sure wasn't people going to jobs and paying taxes. And then you invite your gang of homeless people to come into the communities and commit crimes and become a menace to the community. Every single one of your safe sites that you have, you claim this ASPCA, like friends and family and everything,
Mhm.
every single one of them. We can look at the police records too. We can pull that information and show that every single one of them harbors a community of crime around them. And it spirals out from there. So I know you're asking little fruity questions about this and how they do it and what's helpful, but the end of the result is that you're.
Do you have a question, or are you just gonna keep talking?
It's a statement with a question afterwards if I get to finish. It's not just your space. Okay? You come in here with your gang of homeless that commit crimes to the community. Because I see them all around town. Anyone who doesn't see it, anyone who doesn't see it, is trying to stash.
Are they living in the covered wagon?
Yes. And all around them. Because it's not just the people in the covered wagons, it's the people that they bring with them. And they
So-
commit crimes on the community.
There may be an opportunity for you to give a presentation at some point, but that is not this time.
Yeah,
This is a time
Because
to
I'm
have,
a
if you have
taxpaying citizen.
a question.
Yeah, I'm a taxpaying citizen.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to read anything.
I would like,
I don't want to, I want to make
would
my
like to know
statement
if there's
clear.
a
I want to
possibility
make
for
my statement
answering
clear.
the question.
Okay, I'm a taxpaying citizen.
We know that.
No, you don't do that.
You just
And
stated it and we've
No,
heard it.
and you don't get the results of the crime that these homeless people bring, the drugs, the sexual assaults, the harassment, the killings,
So
okay? All of that's happening from these homeless people coming into the community. What solution is
What's our
Get
solution?
them out of here. They're all coming, they're invited by people in this table to this community from all over the country. These are degenerates from society that commit crimes, horrific crimes, and they're no longer allowed in their communities or in other states.
Next
They're
month,
invited here.
next month,
They're
our,
invited here.
our
Purposely,
conversation
so they
will be
can-
a public safety forum.
They're invited here
So I
purposely
think
so
this
they
is-
can commit crimes.
I think that would be a good time to discuss public safety.
I don't know about any measure.
Well, I raised them to Oregon. I know Cross, and I didn't vote for Sanctuary City, which brings them in.
Get back to the homeless here.
Okay. So there's on May second, on May second at Madison Middle School, there's gonna be a public safety forum. Eugene Police Department will be there, sheriff will be there, the police will be there, elected officials will be there, and that'll be a great time to talk about public safety.
Great.
It starts
Well,
6:30
around the
tonight.
homeless. Around the homeless is the problem.
Feel free
The
to
homeless
raise your
that you're
question.
bringing in, so you can milk money from us.
I have a
Okay, we need to move on to the next question.
Okay, well, I have a question. Who's paying for your 90 cords of firewood and your waste of water treatment? Who's paying for that? That's my question.
So 90 quarts of firewood.
90 cords of firewood and so it takes the waste and water treatment.
It's,
To bring the water in and take the waste out. Who's paying for it?
I'm happy to tell you that.
I hope so.
Okay, so the 90 quarts of wood have been donated by the community. So that's,
That's it.
The
You're done
community
with it?
donated.
You don't have that anymore?
every stick of firewood we get has been donated.
But you have no more, so where's it coming from? Eventually it's gonna run out.
Donating.
It's a donation.
Okay,
So that's that.
yeah.
For water, we have a gray water filtration project that's starting with the University of Oregon. That's gonna actually completely eliminate the gray water. That's in our program.
Who's paying for it? Taxpayers.
We receive donations, we receive grants.
Grants, which come from tax dollars.
No, grants don't come from tax dollars. They come from private foundations.
They come from magic?
Sir, with all due respect, you were not here for the beginning of the presentation where we went over a number of the causes of these kinds of things. So there was a lot of information that was presented that you
Some
didn't.
of us have jobs to pay for the homeless. So,
Okay.
sorry about that.
We appreciate that you're here and, we'd
No,
like,
no, I didn't.
we'd like you to come back to our public safety forum if you have questions or concerns
No,
about public
no
safety.
questions.
But our first group agreements are we speak and then we yield the floor and not dominate discussion. So
Well,
we need to move
like was
around.
dominating the statements before I was allowed to even be acknowledged.
No, this is a presentation. This is a scheduled
She had
presentation.
a question, she had a question. Why?
Right, and we
I
asked
asked her
you
silently.
for your question, and you continue to give us information without ever asking a question. And
Yeah,
so we're ready.
statement back, all of that,
And-
these
and
people
now-
have information.
Now we're gonna move
That's
on to
true.
the next question, please. Yes,
I just have to go back to, something said to us again. I think we quoted something like $2,200 or she got.
No. No, it's-
Yeah, that's the data that my friend recently got when she was shopping
One
for
of the
her.
problems that I believe in you guys, I believe in a lot of things that you're doing, and including other partners in the city.
You believe in what?
I believe in your intentions. One thing that I don't believe in is your data sets. I think that they're sorely lacking, any basis in reality. A lot of times any basis in actual data. A lot of the numbers that are presented about the homeless community are incomplete because a lot of the agencies that deal with the homeless don't have to report. They don't have to ask these people, where are you from? How old are you? What's your name? That's an issue. So if we're gonna get real numbers and talk about percentages like you just laid out, we need to relate and partners need to bring numbers and we need to be demanding. Who are these people? Because when I say I'm meeting a lot of people who live in the neighborhood, that aren't from the neighborhood, and I get people that aren't from my community in the services telling me, no, sir, they are from the neighborhood. And I'm like, well, I've been here for 46 years, and I don't recognize any of them. So to me, that's disingenuous of the different services saying, these people are from your community. They might be from Lane County, it might be from another community within Lane County, but usually the people that I'm meeting on the street, not from the community.
So I can answer some of those regarding the data.
And, okay, so that was with the price of the 2-bedroom apartments, that number, I'll talk about that in a sec. The data, which is sorely lacking, so let's just not even talk about data. And the way that I've seen social services, including what you just did, talk about the police response, which is being driven by the city manager's office and funded by taxpayers as a response to a lot of the negative behaviors that we're seeing on our streets, in our backyards, all across the tracks, all across our communities. So in some ways, if you want to buy into me, I want to see people not talking behind the backs of public works, cleaning up these nasty messes, 5-gallon buckets of feces, needles strewn across our parks. Children all over the winter neighborhood watching people do weird things after they do drugs, all over the place. And it's been like that since I was a kid. So if you want my opinion, I'm gonna be a little bit more true. And so here's the truth about 2 bedrooms. And I do have some rentals. I just looked up Jennings and Schmidt right after you said that. Most of them are $13.95. And those are houses or duplexes. $13.95, $14.95, $15.95, I saw $18.95. I did not see a $2,200. So you might be talking about high-level apartments. But that's a disingenuous argument. We're talking about homeless people. We're talking about entry-level 2-bedroom houses.
So the 2-bedroom, one that they quoted is my friend who has her and her partner working with their child and her mother-in-law. So that's the data that she was just relating to me.
That's not data, that's hearsay. Data is look on Chanel's.
But I prefaced that dollar amount with the fact that this is information from my friend regarding the data sets. Anyone that's funded by Lane County or the city of Eugene is required to enter our data into the homeless information management system. Every single person that we talk to, every single person that engages in our system has to give us all the information. We need their name, their date of birth, their social security number, their last known address, their last physical address that they had, what sources of income they have, all of that sort of information. We're required to gather that. We can't operate our programs without having that information.
And that's why we have so many people on the street, because there's a whole lot of people that choose to be in their addiction on our streets and will not give you their name, and will not tell you that they're from Ohio.
So the data that I'm sharing with you is the data that's from my program, from the program that we operate that has served over 240 individuals.
And again, I respect your program. I actually am really happy that you guys are doing something. But when we're talking about people on the streets right now, there's a lot of them that do not want any part of your program. And I don't want.
That's 100% true. I'm not even gonna deny that. There are plenty of people that are not interested in our program.
Last question, then on to the next presenter.
We have another person that's here to speak to us, so we want to give her a
So
chance.
you're getting touch first.
And then we'll have more time for questions after that.
There was a little bit of scratching saying, this homeless problem has been going on for quite some time. I can't speak to Portland, I can't speak to Detroit, but I can speak to Los Angeles, and especially San Francisco. The cities that deliberately been destroying single room occupancy for decades now. This is you're seeing the homeless people. I lived in one in San Francisco. There used to be quite a number of them are gone, except for one. LA has deliberately gone out and destroyed a lot of their single room occupancy. If you take a look at a movie called Falling Down, you'll see what Michael Douglas is sitting on a because all that used to be single, it's all empty now. It used to be single room occupancy, low income housing. So the cities, and I've seen this thing in Eugene as well, they're coming along and destroying low income housing or cheaper housing and putting up gentrification. So the idea that somehow we haven't taken a look at what we've been doing in terms of development and how we've been destroying single room occupancy and low income housing is very disingenuous. That has to be the first thing. If you want to stop homelessness, you go to the city council and say, hey, stop knocking down any more low income housing and don't give up any tax breaks. You're causing the city to go bankrupt. The city is already running a deficit and they're burning through the reserves.
Okay, thank you. So Martha,
That will lead us into our next. This is Karen Saxe from DevNW. Thank you so much, Heather.
Well, hello, everybody. I pulled that. So hi, as Martha said, I'm Karen Saxe. I work at DevNW. DevNW is an affordable housing developer, both for rental and ownership. And we're also an asset building organization. So we provide financial education and counseling, homeownership education and counseling, really helping people achieve assets that create generational wealth, and help with current and future long-term stability. So we kind of work at a different end of the housing continuum, right? So most of the clients that we work with are current renters and they're trying to buy their first home. I actually engaged with DevNW when I was trying to buy my first home and was curious about how I could do that and how I could make that happen. So we are based in Lane County. We also serve 6 other counties throughout Oregon, which gives us a bit of a unique perspective to understand how the housing crisis is not just isolated to a local jurisdiction, and how other communities within Oregon are working to increase affordable housing options. So as you heard from the video, and as the last question actually teed up, housing really is a solution. So the Oregon Housing Needs Analysis estimates that there's a current shortage of almost 140,000 homes across Oregon, and a projected shortage of almost 400,000 homes over the next 20 years. And so these homes are needed across the continuum, from affordable rentals to homes for ownership, to middle income, to market rate housing. And the crisis in the supply of housing is really showing up starkly here. I know there's been a bit of discussion about what the numbers look like. I also hold numbers, so, you know, but bear with me. But when I saw it, what we were looking at is that there are some real deficit in family units in this community. And we are seeing them rise pretty starkly, especially as you think about what wages have done in this community.
What's rising?
We're seeing the cost of rent rise, right? As we're seeing wages not match that rise. And that is really pushing and hampering people's kind of what they see on a daily basis and what they have on a monthly basis. And our vacancy rates are very low in this community. We hover around 1 to 2%. Over the last couple of years, we've been below 1%. And honestly, the home ownership side doesn't look much better. Median sale prices in Eugene are $470,000. So the numbers really tell the story of a market that is not providing entry to low and moderate income renters or home buyers. Years of disinvestment, as you've heard, coupled with, as I said, wages that are not keeping up, are pushing people further into housing instability and into stagnation. So we work with renters on a daily basis who are wanting to become first-time home buyers. They are putting in the hard work to get their credit where it needs to become mortgage ready. They have good paying jobs, but they're paying 40 to 50% of their income on rent. So their ability to save for a down payment gets further and further out of reach. So for that family that is seeing a house priced at $470,000, they would need to come up with close to $100,000 for a down payment from their own savings or another source to try to avoid mortgage insurance. And given the cost of everything from groceries to transportation to childcare, that is oftentimes an insurmountable hill to climb. Additionally, as we see interest rates continue to rise and currently looming around 7%, we see kind of a twofold impact on this. So prospective homebuyers aren't seeing their money go as far, and current homeowners who may have refinanced when rates were at 2% or below a handful of years ago are oftentimes feeling stuck. So this creates a squeeze in the housing continuum, and the historic turnover of homes that we used to see is not occurring at the same rate that it used to, right? So as we see people wanting to downsize, oftentimes you can't downsize because if you were downsizing, it's going to cost more on a monthly basis than the home that you're currently in. So the question often becomes what's needed. And again, as you saw from the video and has been a little bit discussed a little bit tonight, we truly believe that we must increase the availability of affordable units across the housing continuum. We have to ensure that people can move throughout the continuum if their needs change, and our current housing market is not allowing that to happen. We also have to think differently about development. We cannot rely on the way it was and the way it's been to create any different outcomes. We have to be willing to be creative about types of housing, about investment, and about the process of development. So a couple things from our perspective that we can do. One, it means local investment into housing. The majority of affordable housing development sources are federal or state resources, and they can be really challenging to navigate and very prescriptive. And their limited resources oftentimes sets up unnecessary local competition because oftentimes the funding is actually based on a geographic region. So while we've seen some historic investment in housing from the state over the last couple of legislative sessions, not all funding is created equal. Sometimes they have different uses, sometimes they pair together, sometimes they don't. And having local flexible resources can be a game changer. It not only demonstrates local support for a project, but it also enables kind of unique projects that fit local need to move forward. So for instance, DevNW actually developed we did a repair rehab. We actually acquired a property and repaired it and rehabbed it. We also built a second phase on one site specifically aimed for transition age youth. So these are youth who are 16 to 24, oftentimes coming out of the foster care system, who needed a place to land. And so we were able to get them into housing, they paid rent, and we were able to do that the first phase of that project because of local support, local funding that we received from the city of Eugene. Many of you may have seen some recent articles about how Washington County was virtually eliminating unsheltered homelessness in their community. And this is a direct result of the Tri-County bond that was passed by voters in that region. That infusion of resources with local control was able to target gaps in the system and is demonstrating results tailored to fit their needs. We also are big proponents of by right affordable housing development, which means removing arcane land use and site design requirements that has led to a slow and cumbersome development process. Time is money. And so we shouldn't have to wonder, which is very true for a project, whether the entire project will be blocked and will fall apart because the landscaping strip next to the driveway is 18 inches too narrow. And so, but it also means showing up in spaces like this and showing up at city council meetings and talking about that housing can be the answer and it should be the solution and that we want to see more options at all parts of the continuum because it benefits all of us to be able to do that. We know we can't develop our way out of this overnight, but the best time really that we believe is to start today. We think that accessing housing and having supports and being in stable housing supports our whole community. It supports the families that want to put down roots here. It supports entrepreneurs who shouldn't have to choose between starting a small business and becoming a homeowner. And it really helps both in community engagement, kids do better in school, and employers have a more stable workforce that they can rely on. So I appreciate your guys' time tonight. We really would encourage you to think about how to get involved in creating development opportunities that lead to more housing across the continuum. Thanks.
What's curiously missing from your narrative though is property taxes, which go up 3% every year, which in turn raises the cost for the homeowner to have to raise rent on who's in it. So you talk about rent going up and not being affordable for housing. One of the first ways to do it is stop that automatic 3% increase every year. And all of the new bonds that get in there, they're based on per $1,000 of appraised value. So guess what? Every year, every one of those bond measures tethered to it automatically goes up 3% with it. And what does that do to the value, the affordability?
Yeah.
So that's something that's been missing from every narrative here. It's just silently going by and the government just keeps leaving it in that 3% and goes up. And then it's 3% of the year that went up 3% before that. Ad nauseum.
Yeah, we have a failing tax system in this country, and in this way, and the way that we are funding things is oftentimes through property taxes. And I think that there is a real conversation we had about what becomes part of our property tax system and what doesn't.
So we levy new taxes to deal with the homelessness on top of this, while it's still going up 3% every year, including that one.
And now we'll have an opportunity to vote on this.
Self-fulfilling prophecy that devalues the dollar for any kind of land.
So folks, we're already over time. I think we can take a few more questions. Can we hear from someone we haven't heard from yet? Anybody else?
Oh, there you go.
Ma'am?
So I wanted to go back to the way I
Love it.
So I think, I think as a community, we should go a lot of resource of handing out. I see that, we've been involved with the commission and all different organizations, so we hand out a lot. But what I didn't hear is what they did is how do we hold these people up? How do we, at the mission, they counsel, they try to get them jobs and such. So we have this community that is now housed and has been there 6 months and they're feeling safe, which is wonderful. But then, are they getting jobs? Are they having, are they putting themselves up with jobs, or are they just being comfortable in what's being provided for them? So, and then I thought, we have a maintenance. I understand living in the neighborhood is community. Somebody has a tree fall down, we go, well, what about the people in those communities that they're taking bringing things into their. So I missed that part.
Both of those. So the majority of folks that are residing in our communities, are on like SSDI. A lot of them are receiving some sort of state federal assistance. Those that are able-bodied and are able to work, we work on getting them jobs. Individuals that haven't had jobs for a long time, it's next to impossible to get them into a 40-hour-a-week job from the get-go. So we actually have a workforce development program that starts with those baby steps. Learn to show up on time. Learn how to log into your computer. Let's get you those basic skills that you need to be successful in the current workforce. And so our program is working with the Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce and several of the other local nonprofits to teach people those basic skills that they need in order to be successful in the workforce. Because once we're able to get them there and they have the financial security that they're going to be set for a lot longer than if we just said, okay, well, if you have $400 of savings, here's the part you got. So we are working with that. The piece regarding the neighborhood thing, we did that a lot pre-COVID. And we had a volunteer group that would help us make those connections to our different neighborhood and community groups. And COVID shut a lot of that down. So we just hired a volunteer coordinator again, that's actually gonna help us go back out in the community. So we, this past week, have spent time refreshing all of the outside of our communities, making up garbage that is left by other individuals that are not part of our program, cleaning up the areas, trying to restore the wetlands that are in the areas around it. And the goal, starting this summer, is to really do more of those outreach things and really try to bring the community to us as well as go out into the community more often. It was something that was big during the pre-pandemic age, and then COVID showed a lot of the outreach that we were doing down when we all had a hunger in place. So we're trying to rebuild that program. That was something that we really prided ourselves on when the communities first started. And when we had only 5 communities that we were running, so we're really trying to rebuild it again. If you have opportunities in your area that you think of your parents want to get involved in, please let me know. Because we're looking for ways to involve people in the community. The more connected some folks feel in the area, it's just, the more successful they're going to be, because this is something they care about. If you come and visit any of our sites, and I had a couple of people here actually come on a tour, I totally invite you to come on a tour. You'll notice when you go into one of our communities, it's clean, it's tidy, there's not garbage everywhere, there's not pieces all over the place. Like, if people care about where they're staying, it's this place that they're living right now, this is their home for upwards of 2+ years, and people were able to live in and something better. They care about this, and that's reflected in the space around them as well. So if there's things that we can be engaging them in the broader community outside of our own fenced area, like, we want to involve people in that. So if you have ideas, please let me know. Like, we're totally willing to expand all of that we're doing. That, okay.
I'll chip in on that. When Terry and I went on a tour, there was hardly any of the residents were there because they were all out working at their jobs. So, I think we have time for one more.
I have a question.
Okay.
I don't know your name, sorry.
That's right. I'm Karen. This is Karen.
Thank you. So Karen, you say that you provide finance assistance. That is my understanding.
We provide financial education and counseling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but not an assistance.
Like, sorry, can you
said
clarify your?
financial assistance, or buy something.
So, yeah, so we provide financial education and counseling, and then as far as in like actual dollars to people, is that the question?
Well, that was my understanding.
Okay, yeah, so some of what we do is provide, yeah, down payment assistance, yeah, and we help support.
Assistance.
Mhm.
Okay, that's my understanding of what you said, and that's what I heard you said. And so you're saying you did that, why aren't you providing that to anyone else? Why are you discriminating against me?
We usually go
I
into
could
the
use
program.
To
assistance.
buy a home?
Why not?
Oh, okay.
But I'm not allowed to because
Why-
I'm
why-
not home.
Oh, no, we don't,
So.
you don't,
Yeah, it's not,
And also.
we're not a home service provider.
Sure, but the other thing you said is that it's not free. Taxpayers, because you get your funding from the city of Eugene.
No, so
That's what you said.
there is one project that we have that, development that we did that was supported through funding from the city of Eugene. Our programs and services are open to anyone in the community. And you do, like, we do not actually offer, honestly, we are not really serving people who are unhoused. We're serving oftentimes renters who are looking to become first-time home buyers.
Okay, so where does this funding from the city of Eugene, which means you're not getting funding from the city, you're getting funding from taxpayers. That's really where you're getting money from.
Okay,
So you're stealing from the taxpayers
to engage the homeless and try to build them up. So you're not allowed- I can work myself or others, get a loan, buy a house.
So, I mean, if you want to do the program, they would.
I think I'm like that. I work with you.
It's time to enter the discussion.
I just want to say one thing, because I thank you all for coming out for this. This is a very, very complicated subject. Housing is the subject essentially, and the book talks, I mean, the first 5 chapters are primarily data, which it would be interesting. You brought up a good point about data. I do trust this data from statisticians. I do, best we can. But the last few chapters are prescriptive, and I think we're never gonna answer all the questions tonight because we only have a little bit of time, but continue the conversation, advocate. I think we agree more than we don't, it sounds like. So I just wanted to say that. It sounds like we all have some concerns about costs and everything else. So I appreciate everybody coming out. I know it feels like really tense, but it's a good conversation. Thank you for trying to work. Thank you, guys.
You can't get the information from somebody, that's right.
You can't get what?
You can't get the information. Say, how much does this cost us? You can't get that information. Until we can get that information, it's gonna be hard to.
Well, like, yeah, you can get all the details of the budget. It's available. It's public
Yeah, but-
information.
Yeah,
But you have to comb through it.
460 pages.
I know.
And they don't really, have you looked at it?
I have looked at the budget,
Okay.
yeah.
So can you tell?
I can't, but I bet, but there are citizens who serve on the budget committee
But
and.
they bury it in all you cannot, trust me.
Okay.
You can't.
Okay.
Should we wrap up?
Yep.
Thanks,
So,
folks.
thank you. So we do still have a lot of meetings to go through, and you're welcome to stay, and if you want to leave, you're welcome to leave, and if you missed at the beginning, we really appreciate if you sign in, so we can advocate for money to help send out notices like you received in the mail, and next month's public safety presentation is not here, it's at Madison Middle School, and it starts at 6:30. So we're gonna keep moving on in our agenda. Woo, okay. So equity statement.
The approval of that.
Okay, I'd happily entertain a motion to approve the last month's minutes as written, if I could get that. Is there a second?
Second.
And all in favor? Anybody opposed? Done and done. Okay, so our old business is to adopt or otherwise change the equity statement as proposed. It's on the table there. I can read it out. Do you want to read it out quickly?
Yeah, we can do that.
Sure.
But this is the statement that was adopted already by the group. But what we want to do is put it into the bylaws because we're required to have an equity statement in bylaws.
Okay.
And so it's typically, if you want to read the whole thing.
It's already exists in our bylaws. You can find it on our webpage under bylaws. Oh, no, it already exists, but not in our bylaws.
You need to add this to our bylaws.
Okay, so I would have to entertain a motion to move this statement into our bylaws.
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Matt. All in favor of moving the equity statement? It's not new information. It's just going to a different spot. Okay, any opposed? Okay, passed. On to new business. We have an election to finish up. So we have how many seats available, Jerry?
The seats that have expired is Matt Bowles, myself, Jerry Finnegan, Jerry Moore, Terry Reed, and Patrick Kerr. Matt came in on another 2-year thing, so he was already elected last year. He needs to be elected again this year. Patrick Kerr passed away, and he has 1 year left in his term. And then myself, Jerry Moore, And Terry has 2-year terms.
So for anybody who doesn't understand, we are neighborhood volunteers, residents of Santa Clara, and we serve on this community organization board, and it is a working board. So if you want to serve, we welcome you. There is a requirement that you attended and signed into a meeting in the last 12 calendar months to be a member who's in good standing for voting or for running. So if anybody would like to volunteer themselves for a position on the board, they are 2-year positions. We happily entertain anybody who wants to consider that.
And if anyone's wanting one.
Is there anybody whose term has expired who's willing to serve again?
So nominate that.
So,
Since
so it looks like,
3 a.m. with my 4-year-old.
right, we always like to encourage new people to come on the board. It helps bring new perspectives and new responsibilities. So it looks like we have 4 of 5 seats, people who are willing to run again, but are always happy to step aside and let new people
It's a lot of
step
fun.
up.
You get to learn a lot of fun things.
So
You get to
there's-
run the presentation.
And there's one hopefully uncontested seat. Anybody?
Okay, I'd like to do Patrick's seat.
You would. Excellent.
Perfect.
Okay, so going once, going twice. Anybody else interested? People will step aside for you. Nobody else is interested, so I move that we adopt the slate of 4 returning candidates and Scott Sorensen to fill the 5 seats. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, so now we'll vote. Anybody in favor, raise your hand. And this includes everybody. It's a general meeting. Anybody opposed? All right, done and done. Who knew? So,
Welcome, Scott.
yeah. Can't wait to use your talent even more. Okay, so then, the Santa Clara Community Foundation, do you want to take that on? For the board.
We have an application for a new board member. The Santa Clara Community Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit in the neighborhood, a community-supported nonprofit. And the board members of this organization are the voting members for the foundation. So they can vote for and nominate and terminate board members of the foundation. So Kevin Reed, who is not here tonight, has applied, and he is up for a vote tonight. And so
I'm wondering if we shouldn't do Kathleen Allison too, because I didn't find any record that we approved her.
well, okay, well, that's, and she's already hit the ground running, and she's basically on the board.
And the foundation board can be up to 15 people, so we're always looking for more people to serve on that board. And the basic function of the Santa Clara Community Foundation is to help advocate for projects and initiatives in the neighborhood, be able to serve as a tax exempt place to donate money to projects in the neighborhood. And if you have interest in doing that, there are spaces, lots of spaces.
So I move that we allow Kevin Reed and Kathleen Allison on the foundation board.
I second.
Okay.
All in favor? Unanimous?
What?
And we vote for our board. We have.
I
Well,
said,
since we're.
okay. So we're gonna zip on down to announcements because that's where we're at. So, do you want to give us a quick update for Art in the Park?
Yeah, yes. Quick?
Yep.
Okay. Saco received a grant from the city of Eugene for the 2nd annual concert at Aubrey Park. We held it last year in August. We're holding it again this year in August 4th, Sunday, August 4th, from 1 to 4:30. We plan to have 3 bands and 1 or 2 singer-songwriters in between. We'll have a couple of food trucks.
we had 350 or so last year.
It's a free event?
It is an absolutely free event, except if you want to buy food from the food trucks. And we'll have games in the park for kids. It was a wonderful day last year. We had a lot of fun. So we're moving through quite rapidly, sort of. We had our first meeting with the city of Eugene. We're looking at, I think we've stepped through most of the permit issues, but we are just waiting on confirmation or approval of the general liability, which we have to purchase for the event. Thank you. We're waiting on you, Tim.
Send the event.
Oh, no, we just need your A-OK. So, did you
I'm
not?
not sure what that means. I didn't know they were waiting on me for anything.
Oh, okay. So we have sent the email with the policies to the Santa Clara Community Foundation for approval, just to say, yes, it's indemnifying the organization, the foundation, and the city of Eugene. So anyway.
I didn't see it.
Okay, so I'll circle back with you. So we're waiting, we're going to be approving that, and then we'll do music selections and tabling. We have Troop 182 who's managing safety in the parking lot because we like safety sometimes, and St. Matt's has graciously allowed us to use their parking for the event as well. So with all of that, we hope you put that on your calendars and help us get the word out and come play on Sunday, the 5th, 4th. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
What time of day?
1 to 4:30. Yeah.
Can Gary Liskey speak? Have we figured that out?
Yeah.
Can I hear? Okay, so update, Aubrey Firefly Festival Liskey Jam, you're there.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yes. First of all, this weekend is our last work party from 9 a.m. to noon. I highly recommend, even if you don't come over and work, to come over and look at all the trillium, because the trillium and the forest and all around the edges of the park are just gorgeous. They won't be that way during the wildflower celebration. They'll be past their prime. There's also a really, really cool project that Jessica and Rick and Vera did over by Buzz's house, and you will see this unbelievable handmade fence along the bank that's protecting some shrubs that they just planted. That alone is worth going over there. Plus you have the opportunity to move chips and do some other actual physical work. The wildflower celebration is May 4th, Saturday, May 4th. Typical format. There'll be music. There'll be treasure hunt. There'll be, we don't serve food at that one, so you just have to bring your own picnic if you would like. But that is a great event. It's from 11 to 2 on Saturday, May 4th.
Hey, Gary, will there be native plants given away again at this time?
Yes, the treasure hunt. So the idea of the treasure hunt is you mark off flowers on a laminated sheet, and then you come back, you turn it in, and you're given a native plant to take home.
All right.
And how many years has this been going on?
This is year 13. Hard to believe.
That's 11 to 2 on May 4th. Thanks, Gary. All right, so next month's SACO meeting is going to be at Madison Middle School, Public Safety, 6:30 to 9. Tell all your neighbors. We're having it there because we're expecting there might be a lot of people who have something to say. And there will be a lot of public safety providers there to tell you what they're doing and to answer questions. So we're looking forward to that. I'll buzz through a whole bunch of,
Let me give one little announcement before you get to
Sure.
that. Rod Graves, who is on the Santa Clara Water Board, stopped by and gave me a sheet just to let everybody know that the EWEB is building another reservoir or another reservoir, and that is going to be done 2030, I think. But they're going to be raising rates. Going to be raising water rates somewhere around 7.5% to 8%, probably each year as they build up toward this $100 billion reservoir.
It's a new plant.
It's
a secondary water plant.
Secondary water plant.
Yeah.
So just a heads up.
Okay. April 6th at LCC, there's the 2024 powwow, and there's a grand entry at noon and at 7 if you're interested in that. April 13th, there's the local emergency preparedness group is having a free FRS radio training. So those are the handheld radios that in case of extreme emergency disaster allow us to communicate among ourselves and with our regional person for River Road Santa Clara, who they can then communicate with the head honcho. And it's anyway, if you have FRS radios, you can get them at Jerry's or Bi-Mart, and you want to learn how to use them. Saturday, April 13th, 10 a.m. at the Norkenzie Christian Church on Preston Avenue. Saturday, April 13th, there's also at the Emerald Park, there's the annual propagation fair. So there's a free seed swap, sale, trade, giveaway of plants. There's grafted fruit trees. So they'll have all different kinds of sign wood. You pay $3 for rootstock, and there's somebody there to graft apples, peaches, pears, cherries, all those things. And it's free to show up there.
And it's the 13th.
13th. And then on April 14th, St. Matt's is having its Garden Cottages open house. So St. Matt's Episcopal at the corner there by Spring Creek and River Road has two transitional housing units and supported kitchen and gathering space up next to the Santa Clara Community Garden, and they're having an open house, 12 to 1:30, if you want to come over and celebrate. Ready Northwest, the group that is Whitaker, Active Bethel Citizens, River Road, Santa Clara Emergency Preparedness Group that has been organized by participants in those neighborhoods, needs people who are excited and interested in emergency preparedness to step up and help be organizing volunteers. So if you have interest in that, let me know and I will hook you up with the right person. But there's a waning of the organizing volunteers, so the effectiveness and continuing programming is suffering at this point. So if anybody has a interest, that would be great if you stepped up. May 1st, Razor Park, there's a neighborhood bee survey. So if you want to learn about how to ID all the different kinds of bees and then do a survey of them from noon to 2 at Razor Park on May 1st, there will be a master bee ID guy and nets and all the things you need to learn how to do it. May 2nd, we already talked about, is our meeting. Then the neighborhood plan. For anybody who doesn't know, that we're nearing the end of the neighborhood plan. April 22nd, the city council will deliberate. April 23rd, the Board of County Commissioners will deliberate, and hopefully they will deliberate to the point of making a decision at each. Our neighborhood plan has to be adopted by both municipalities because we are that kind of a neighborhood. And so if you want to provide any comments about the neighborhood plan, you have up until their deliberations to go ahead and submit those. And the Community Advisory Committee of the Neighborhood Plan Project is working on its own advocacy and position. But if you know any city councilors or county commissioners and you want to call them up and take them to coffee and advocate, we need that. And then, let's see, are we on the land use yet? Because that's the only thing I have left. Peter's not here, so we don't have anybody for the garden, do we? Anything else for the foundation, Tim? Do you want to do a general foundation, something rather?
No, we have a Howland, one of our projects that's stewarding Howland Landing County Park. We're doing a lot of work down there. We're doing invasives and things. We had a work party last weekend. And so it was turned out. Thanks to everybody who did. And we also have the schoolhouse project, which a lot of you have heard about from our mailings and things. And Kate is project manager for that. And I'm not sure we have any updates regarding.
Gary and I were out there today with Carolyn Burke from the city talking about
wastewater and how to get hooked into the city's programmed wastewater improvements for their own park. And so we are inching forward. Every day we're inching forward. So we're not up and running, but we're kind of hobbling at this point. Soon I expect we'll be running.
And running, you mean hammers and saws?
All those good things, yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know, there's a single-family residence that was originally built in 1901 as a one-room schoolhouse on River Loop 2, 990 River Loop 2. It's the one house that's all boarded up, sitting all by itself in the middle of the Santa Clara Community Parkland. And we encourage the city not to demolish it, but instead to come into an agreement with us to give us the building, and we would rehabilitate it and be able to have it as a community center until such time as they actually build something out in our neighborhood in the distant horizon. So that's the project in a nutshell, and it's all, yeah, that is. It's all volunteer funded and run, and it'll all, you know, we'll need everybody and all of your mad skills to pull it off, but I am 100% certain we can do it. It's just whether we can do it before I die. So I don't have any plans to go that way in a hurry, just so you know. Land use, annexation, partition for 94 and 120 Irvington Drive. It's an existing flag lot behind a front lot. Final plat for the Hyacinth Street Middle Housing, which is which has been approved. So anybody in that neighborhood who had an appeal for it could submit that, but I haven't seen one. And then there's a lot validation on Grizzly Avenue for 0.15 acres. So not a lot of things shaking in the land use realm.
Okay.
Yes.
What about that land next to the Santa Clara bus station? Is it, do you happen to
Not yet, but there was a meeting of the LTD board, and the staff made a presentation about what to do about it, because they are going to surplus that land at some point. And through all the neighborhood planning processes and everybody's input about what might happen there, I think what came to be was, at least from the neighborhood planning perspective, was to have the city involved as an interim owner to help plan the entirety of that piece, and then have it go to whoever could develop it. Because if it gets just carved up willy-nilly for whoever puts in, you know, has the most money to do it at any one time, we might not get the kinds of amenities that we wanted as a community. And one of those amenities is an urban plaza. And there is money in the 2018 Parks Bond Measure for an urban plaza, and the Parks Department is willing to go ahead and put one in there, but they won't put a park in there unless the entire thing is designed around it so the park would be successful. If they bought just an acre for the park and then we got a fast food restaurant with a lot of parking lot around it, it's not going to be a very successful park. And where the city has money for that land, which is probably 3.5 acres now, is in housing funds. So if they're going to build multi-story housing, we would like to have the ground floor be commercial and neighborhood scale commercial, so that there are the kinds of goods and services that people would want when they visit a plaza, and there would be a synergy there that would help create a viable nexus for our neighborhood. So that's what I continue to voice to the LTD board, but they've had 2 board turnovers and 1 managerial turnover since we started this conversation. So it's a constant learning curve.
Deja vu on them.
Exactly like that. But we're still working on it, and that's the hope for vision.
Based on tonight's topic, it might be wise to consider a large multifamily affordable housing building where lots of units.
Well, it makes good sense to put housing next to transit.
Absolutely.
So there we are. Yep, that's the site. So, you know, who knows how it would all plan out, but that's the vision at this point: is housing, commercial goods and services, urban plaza,
ice cream.
Okay.
How many acres is the whole lot?
Well, the entire thing was like 7, so I'm thinking that might be 3.5 or 4, what's left. Just by eyeballing.
Fire or something going on?
No, they were.
We always like to take suggestions for upcoming presentations. If there are issues you think that the community organization needs to address or groups you'd like to have us invite for future presentations, we're always happy to have suggestions and feedback about that. So feel free to let me know. And then, yeah.
Have we had the Friends of Trees coming in before?
Yeah, pretty recently, actually. Yeah, this winter he was here, Eric Burke. Just missed that one, but it's probably on our YouTube. You can find the videos of past meetings.
That, for anyone that's not familiar, we have a website that has recordings of all of these meetings and presentations given. So anything that you want to see the last time the sheriff was here and spoke with us, or Friends of Trees, you can just go through and search all of our past meetings.
It doesn't have all the rest of
them. Late and missed the first part of the presentation tonight. One person could catch up on this.
I could.
That was disappointing. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yes.
Real quick. The river keepers are having a cleanup on the 20th. I don't know if people were aware. Tori Jacobs Park meet there at 10 a.m.
Great.
We have Friends of Trees. So.
Cool.
Yeah. And is your guy here?
Yes, Darren Harvick. Darren Harvick is running for the State House of Representatives, which is House District 12. I asked him to come by, and he's been to a number of city council meetings, and I think this is probably the first neighborhood association meeting he's been to, so I'm sure it's been very informative. If you could just have a couple minutes to say hi, that'd be great.
Sure.
So yeah, thanks for having me come, John. John lives in the area. I'm actually from the McKenzie River, lived there my whole life, so city life is a little bit different for me. I am on the ballot kind of May 21st. I'm a conservative Republican on the ballot. There's 2 of us on the ballot. There was not a Democrat that signed up. This has been an issue that, homelessness has been an issue, and, there's the dynamic of helping people that want to help and then helping people that don't want to help. That's been the big. From the McKenzie River, we had an issue at Twilliger Hot Springs that was a free use, and it caused a ton of problems. As soon as the Forest Service started charging a fee for that use, all of our problems went away. You can't do that everywhere, but I've seen it happen. If you're just giving it away for free, people are just going to flock to it. And when people need help, you want to help. We all want to help everybody. So it's a tough issue. State's dealing with it. It'll be something I can deal with when I go to the legislature. So just kind of hearing the dynamics from everybody here, it's good for me to hear those, because I'm here as a representative. I've been in business 35 years, and so served on school board, and this is just something I'm passionate about right now, and I appreciate your time here. My district actually starts where the tall trees are and goes towards Coburg, Jefferson City, goes all the way to McKenzie, Mohawk, does the Oak Ridge, Coburg, it does Coburg, and then does Crestwell and Cottage Grove. So it's East Rural Lane County will be District 12.
And it's north of Carthage Avenue, and then when crossing River Road, it's on Altura, so up by Daniel Street. So it is a niche, and so that's his. I guess you can see the southern boundary of the district going towards Jefferson City. So when we were up putting up signs, oh my gosh, part of the district was here in Santa Clara, and I said, hey, you can come and say hi.
Yeah, I'm taking minutes, so give me your name again.
Yeah, Darren Harvick, and I'll give you a pamphlet for it. So Darren Harvick, and our website, Harvick for Oregon, and I'll be around if you have any questions for me later. But thanks for the time, appreciate it.
Who held the seat previously?
So currently, Charlie Conrad is the Republican in the seat. And this district used to be Senator Hayden's. When they did all the redistricting, Senator Hayden went to the state Senate, became an open seat, and so Charlie Conrad is the current one in that seat, and that's who I am running against, because I value parental rights. And you voted on a bill, House Bill 2002, which I am against. Again, controversial bill, Republican versus Senate. I'm a Republican versus Democrat. Was a bipartisan, only because Charlie voted for it as a Republican. So anyways, Thanks.
Yep, this is my first time attending, but I just have a question, this community gathering that we have, I see that there's more on the calendar. What would you recommend for anyone, sitting in these chairs that would like to, maybe give suggestions on topics, or maybe suggestions on, different, way the discussion happen, or questions, or even that, or to get involved in that, what would you recommend?
I'm right here. I'm ready. Step right up.
Yeah, like, sure, now, or I'll share my thoughts.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, okay, so I think that, and I don't know the full intention of this gathering. So in reading, I got the mail, is that, the presentations are going to be made, and then we're going to have a discussion and questions. So as the main point was to communicate what was wanted to be communicated through the presentation. I think that's great, that's very done. But when it came to the questions and the discussion, I think that's where I think might be more improvement, and maybe having like more time for an open discussion and having maybe some rules set in place and timers or something like that, because I think like looking at homeless, we all agree that it's a problem. But I think what we don't quite agree on is what the problem actually is. Some people might say it's a problem because of this, and some might say it's a problem for this. If we're trying to come to have a solution, I don't know if that's a for this, but if it is, we have to kind of like see what the problem is and come to the solution. So I think that if we are presenting information, I think it'd be great to have an opportunity for people to discuss, like we decide what the problem is here. Someone might have a different opinion. Are we going to allow them to organize to speak there? This is what I think the problem is here. This is the cause, things like that. But you know, I don't like the the back and forth and everything. Everyone's got their own place and perspective and opinions, and they all need to be respected. So I think that this is a great opportunity for people to come together with different perspectives. So how can we make it a little bit more well-rounded so everyone gets the opportunity to share their perspective? Unless it's just this one way of like, the presentation is there, that's the perspective shown, and we have a little time for Q&A. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great feedback.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I think what happened tonight is somebody asserted himself, and I don't know if there's a time limit, if he, interesting chemistry.
I think I agree, because, if we have like a agreed upon.
Here's the rules.
Well, we do have a rule that if you don't interrupt them and then you get to speak and then you have to yield the floor, you don't dominate the discussion. So we expect like people to do that themselves instead of.
Yeah, I think that's how they.
Yeah.
Everyone interpret that differently. So, like, we have one person talking and we're saying, we're running out of time, but I've got other people that we're allowed to have enough time to talk to. So I think if we have like a timer in place, and then agreed on it, 5 minutes, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I just didn't see quite equality around the room.
Yeah, got it.
There's an issue before, but it's not usually an issue. So like if there's a big crowd, usually we'll limit it to 30 seconds or a minute per person. But it hasn't been an issue for a while.
I think this is my first time.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Good feedback.
I would just speak to that, Park and Walk Ward 7 River Road, the city council candidate for Ward 7. So some of the other community organizations, whether it's Whitaker, downtown, Washington, Jefferson, River Road, does exactly kind of that. There's a procedure and protocol to it. Is somebody does a presentation and then we have a question, and then it's usually you're given 2 to 3 minutes depending on the group size and time and group speakers. And that might be a good idea to kind of resort back to that, whether it's a group of 15 or it's a group of 30 or 60. I think that's great for having transparency for all of the organizations and people within the community and being equitable and equal quality, because we're all going to have different opinions. We might want to get to the same entity, might have different ways of getting there, but we're going to have different opinions. And some of them will be really strong opinions and be really passionate. And we don't need other audience members jumping in on someone's 3 minutes or board members jumping in. It's 3 minutes. I think that was my 3 minutes.
Great. And topics?
Yeah.
Did you have topics that?
The topics come into play, is there like we just, is there an email or we just suggest them at the meeting?
You can suggest them at the meeting, you can go to the website and click on contact and send them suggestions or, any way.
Now's a good time to suggest one.
I got a suggestion.
Yeah.
My suggestion is that as we go forward with all of these, housing ideas, people are looking at River Road, we've got large lots to do a lot of low income housing. And I don't want to sound like an indie because I'm not an indie. I grew up in Whitaker and I don't mind people from all walks of life. But it's not just common sense, it's research and fact that if you stack low income people on top of low income people and you put the low income poverty issues in your community, it deteriorates the community. So my suggestion is that people like DevNW push harder to people like Keating and South Eugene and the manager and the middle manager and try to get more of this equity that they're talking about up into these fluently events. They already steal land and put some of this equity back in South Eugene and over in Gilbert and implant low income in those neighborhoods. Because that's what equity is. I listen to city council meetings, and that's exactly what equity is to get the low income people same opportunity that the kids that I grew up playing soccer against South Eugene, that they're born with at 40th and Donald. So you can go up to 40th and Donald and walk your little dog this weekend and walk as many miles as you want and not run into something that might scare you. And then you can come get a hold of me and we can go walk from Chambers and Railroad Boulevard all the way to the skate park. And we'll see what the experience difference is. So my thought is, I'm not against low income housing being mixed in with communities, but this, I look at what they're doing with the city and their partners, and DevNW is a big one, and all these partners, and they're just drooling at our community in Ward 7, and we've already got the bulk of the issue in Ward 7 with the Transong and the Whitaker. We've got a disproportionate burden of the entire homeless situation. You add 300 admission and you add all of our safe sleep sites. We've got it. And it needs to be spread. The burden needs to be spread. It's starting to come out River Road and they're going to keep pushing it out River Road until someone says, hey, Keating, that one little safe sleep site you got, home 70% of your residents is great. Let's do 6 more. It's gonna be expensive. South Eugene land's expensive, but so are reparations. So that's my piece.
So Darren and Travis spent some time talking to the finance department. And it turns out the city is not we need to have a conversation about anything that's gonna happen in the future. Well, where are these gonna come from? Because I think, quite frankly, having lived through 2 municipal bankruptcy, my wife and I did, this city's headed to that. I know you're not supposed to have a bankruptcy, but go tell that to Vallejo, San Bernardino, and Orange County. They went bankrupt. Your city is burning through the reserves, way below the reserves it's supposed to have and mandated to have. They're having a deficit, and that's growing. And they still want to give away more and more tax breaks at this particular point in time. I think that there has to be a discussion as to where this city is going to go, because if you do, I'm telling you, I don't think any of you have lived through a bankruptcy. My wife and I did experience it tangentially with San Bernardino. You don't want to be there. You do not want to see what happens.
So you're suggesting to raise taxes?
Pardon?
Raise taxes or not cut taxes?
We need to have a conversation. I don't know what it is. I'm just one guy. I'm just telling you what the situation is right now. I'm just telling you the history of what happened, recent history. San Bernardino became the 2nd 4th big city in America after they went bankrupt. And they had, you think that, you have that police response now? They're gonna start measuring it in days. They're not gonna show up, if they show up in an hour, you're lucky. But they're gonna probably show up the next day, if at all. Your EMT crews, they'll show up a little later too. Guess what's gonna happen to your property bill? Guess what's gonna happen to your property insurance?
Hannah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do live in the neighborhood, Travis, we all talk quite a bit, and I did, get an offer, I asked for an appointment with someone who had finance, budget analyst, so she knew her stuff. And our hour conversation, the operative word in the world of budget analyst, I asked what was the status or the state of the budget, and she said, the operative word, literally distress. Distress. Red lights. Their credit rating is based on their reserve funds, and too often they refer to the general fund. No, there's not just the general fund. There's little pots all around that general fund. General fund is usually referred to because it's the most used or able to tap into. The others may have restrictions. So did you know the city is going to a biennium budget this year? Do you guys know that? So because of that, typically by year by year, they have to put 8% of the total budget in reserves to maintain that highly desired credit rating. Because if they've gone to biennium this year, as a biennium, it's 4% for this year, 4% for the following year. You know how much they have in that fund right now? 2.7. You're 1.3 off from having that reserve to maintain that credit rating. And if that gets blown up, we're all going to feel it. So the bottom line is the city is out of money. The people are out of money. This housing, we can't just keep giving dollars away and not expecting. And the housing, the affordable housing, Charlie was able to get a sheet from HUD, was it? The largest demographic of unhoused are single women with kids. And guess what? They have a special program for that, but that's the largest piece of the pie. It is unhoused, single women with kids. So all these, I call them carpetbaggers, who come in from all over the United States and they get those 20-year no tax deals. And guess who gets burdened with those taxes that would have been paid just to attract them into our community to build these apartments? Those people want to live in their own little house. The apartment housing, I look at that as very temporary. It's just a transitional. Most people want their own place, but the chart showed that studios, they were income verifiable, meaning that the feds will look into, they were all studios. And yet our largest demographic of unhoused are single women with children. What is this next generation going to be experiencing when they are unhoused?
Thank you, Barbie.
They're under 1,000 square foot, like 977 square foot. A woman with 2 or 3 kids.
380 to 5.
Yeah, 380. I was stunned, and yet there's no accountability. Our council sits there with all these dollars, these federal dollars, and they don't hold these people, their feet to the fire. They're getting these 20-year tax breaks, grabbing the money and leaving our state. We should only have Oregonian, established Oregonian people, contractors coming in that are assuring and giving those market rates for those apartments at the beginning and contractually hold them to it. They can't come in and just grab our dollars. These commercial realtors that come in and buy up our property. So look at that place on Willamette Street, those ugly tenement apartments that they weren't even out of town on money. They had plumbing and electrical issues that flooded the whole building. They slammed banned that building
that ugly building that comes right up to the sidewalk. There's no greenway, there's nothing green about it. Or gets none of the green. Do you know what our motto is for the state? Do you know what our state motto is? We're begging for federal dollars. We're begging for federal dollars. That's what's holding it forward out of people. Federal dollars. She flies with her own wings. That's our state motto. How is this state flying with her own wings when you're begging for federal dollars? I could just 2 seconds. I think what Janet's trying to comment on is the more I use for me, and well, well, we do want to keep screening. Sure. It's the multi-unit property tax exemption apartments that the city is building $50 million down at the riverfront. And what's happening, what she's talking about is contractors are coming in and then they get 10 years of the residential that's built upon property tax, which is money Eugene really could use. And they're doing it non-prevailing wages also. And then the housing that they're saying is affordable, because 50% affordable, 50% market rate, really isn't affordable because you've got 477 square foot studios for about $900 to $1,000. And then you've got 1 bedrooms at $1,500. And then there's 5 2-bedrooms, I think, at $2,200. So the city is allowing 10 years of no property taxes. And then it's not affordable for single mothers. And what's going to happen, and I might have done this in college and beyond, so you're going to get a studio and you're going to throw 5 people in there, or you're going to get a 1-bedroom and it's going to be 10 families, and it's not going to be a great living situation for anybody. And then after 10 years, yes, the developers will leave, and then you can charge whatever you want for this apartment complex. So we really need to look at is the area medium income and lower that for lower rates and start charging property taxes to these builders and give prevailing wages to the people that live here at mostly Ward 7, contractors, plumbers, electricians that are building this.
And the council table has to hold their feet to the fire on that. They cannot just come into our great little city and grab those dollars and walk away. And then the rest of us property owners are burdened down with more bonds, more taxes. Well, they skate out with millions of dollars. There must be accountability, and it must be contractually signed, so even if they leave, they're held to it.
Thanks, Janet.
Thank
And
you.
You're here.
thanks, everybody, and we are over time, so thank you for coming. And if you're somebody who uses returnable bottles, taking one of those little bags, using it helps put your returnable back foundation.
Survived another one. Barely.